This is Mrs. Hall, and this is Alex Sykes, who will be asking the first question.
I guess my question was, what did you think the relationship between Kurtz and the trader that took care of him when he got sick and stuff, and how that, like, changed Kurtz and if it did, or not?
Trader. Are you talking, which?
It's in the beginning of part 3, when it's talking about how the trader, like, took care of him and stuff, because he had, like, 2 illnesses, and sometimes they would, like, be together a lot, and sometimes they wouldn't be together very much.
Oh, so you're talking about the Russian?
Yeah, the Russian. I don't
Okay.
know why I was calling it
You're
the trader.
jumping way ahead on me.
But yeah, we have the,
You
because
have,
we had the last section of the book, because we, like, the group you did
Pages
this morning-
57 to 72.
Right. These guys just have
Right.
a bus to catch
okay.
before school, and so they can't come in the morning, so.
Okay, I prepped for the wrong part. Okay, so, sorry.
It's
It's
fine.
alright. Bear with me. So you're asking about the relationship between the Russian
Yeah.
and Kurtz.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it was complex, I would say. Earlier on in the novella, Marlowe talks about people that most of us can be tempted, and that most of us will sort of fall and revert to a very selfish, evil person,
Mhm.
because in our hearts that we're not innately good, that our hearts are dark, and that for most of us, he says at one point, smell dead hippo for too long and see what happens to you. Put yourself in a situation where you don't have the comforts of society,
Yeah.
and you're probably gonna turn out pretty, well, not crazy,
Yeah.
but that you will do things that you never imagined you would do in the comforts of society. But he says that doesn't happen to everybody. He said it happens to most of us, but it wouldn't happen to a fool. He says that the fool, he's too stupid. Why would the devil doesn't have any fun tempting a fool, because the pleasure that the devil gets from tempting you is knowing that you're conscious of the fall. And so I think that the Russian really represents that fool. He's a white man in Africa. We see that Kurtz, as a white man, is able to accomplish this God position among the tribe. So what's a Russian doing there? Because the Russian seems like he sort of worships Kurtz as well. And why doesn't he also take advantage and become selfish and do things just for himself? And he doesn't. And he definitely seems to have, I think he loves Kurtz, and he fears him. So he's there, and he's ready to take care of him, and he seems to have sort of this competition with the native woman
Mhm.
over Kurtz's attention. So I would say Kurtz is dominant in that
Mhm.
relationship, and the Russian definitely allows Kurtz to be
Yeah.
in charge.
All right, thanks.
And
Okay, I guess my question is, what do you think Kurtz has any redeemable qualities about him?
Absolutely. I think that Kurtz was a man who went in with good intentions. And if you go back earlier in the book, we learn, his goal was, his idea was that you could go in and you could be this beacon of light on the road to progress. You could help the African people and bring the torch, the knowledge, the civilization, and still make money. He obviously wasn't able to resist his own temptation, when he became God to the people, that was too much. He couldn't say no thanks, and just be a man, a human being. So if you set Kurtz up side by side with the people in the company, Marlowe calls it his choice of nightmares, and he chooses Kurtz. And he chooses Kurtz because at least Kurtz wasn't a liar. The company lied, and they presented themselves as something they weren't. And Kurtz puts the heads on stakes right out in the open. When he falls, but you see it. And you can see the savagery, you can see the immorality that, he's participated in. But it's out in the light. And when Marlowe talks about the choice of nightmare, he chooses Kurtz because of that, because he hates the lie. He hates somebody like the manager or the pilgrims at the interstation, because they're scheming and lying, and it disgusts him. Kurtz is flawed, and he commits horrible atrocities, but he's at least open about it. And I think that's why Marlowe, I wouldn't say respects him, but is going to choose that nightmare over the nightmare of the company. And by choice, Marlowe's not involved, but he wants no part of what that company has to offer, and what the imperialists say they're doing. Kurtz is out there with his guns, and he's raiding, and he's stealing, and he's turned his back on the company because he's acknowledged this is what it takes. You can't make money and do all the good things at the same time. And he recognizes that at the end when he says, the horror, this is what I've become. I've given in. I've recognized the truth, and it's a little too ugly. So yeah, I like the Kurtz character. He's horrendous, but I think he's great.
And my question was, don't remember the pages, but when Kurtz gets off the boat and he's crawling back to the forest, and Marlowe finds him and they're going back, it's implied that Kurtz is really heavy, even though Marlowe is only supporting him. I was wondering what you thought, why he seemed so heavy to Marlowe.
Let me find that quote. Let's see.
It's on page 63 in this book. I wiped my forehead while my legs shook under me as though I had carried half a ton on my back down that hill, and yet I had only supported him, his bony arm clasped around my neck, and he was not much heavier than a child.
Yeah, so he's sweating and his legs are shaking. That must have been a very scary situation for Marlowe. He can see the fires burning. He hears what I believe he calls it a satanic litany, this noise. He can hear the drums beating. The natives, it's implied that they are, that they make sacrifices to Kurtz, that they worship him like a god and sacrifice who knows what for him and make offerings for him. And if he's their God and he's crawling along that path to them, all Kurtz had to do was yell, and Marlo would have been killed, and perhaps made as an offering to Kurtz. So I think that the shaking and the sweating, it's the adrenaline. Yeah, Kurtz is light, but there was nothing light about that situation. It was very, very scary, and his life was really in Kurtz's hands there. And if Kurtz had said the word, he would have been dead.
Mhm.
Questions?
Here, I have another one. If you were teaching a 12th grade class and they were reluctant to read Heart of Darkness, what would you say to get them excited and encouraged to read it? Or what would you quote from the book?
Oh, what would I quote from the book? Oh man, that's a tough one. I have so many. Well, I think you can actually pause for a second. Give me a minute to find a quote I really like.